How to get better at talking to people. Have you ever asked that question? If I ever told you that getting better at talking to people is getting better at building human connection, would you believe me? Building a human connection is a practice of getting to know people. And to get to know people, you need to approach them. Remember, people invest in people first. Companies are built with people. Steve Jobs didn't build Apple thinking he was going to sell products. He built it because he invested in people and he knew that he was creating a lifestyle created by people coming together and sharing common interests and activities. Always comes down to people. In this video, you're going to learn how to build a connection with anyone, even if you don't know them. And that's called building a rapport, and it's the first step in establishing a relationship. Sales is all about building relationships, and these techniques will not only help you build those relationships, but also help you close deals. Now let's explore something. You're in a room and ever wonder why you're drawn to certain people even though they don't have anything particular to say. Let's say they're not even dressed a certain way. Their presence is just overwhelming, their aura, and you're naturally drawn to them. They may not even tell you anything or look at you, but you want to get to know them. Has that ever happened to you? You do two things. One, you can observe the situation, or two, get closer to the person. Now you catch eye contact. What do you do next? Well, the easiest thing to do is smile, because what smiling does is releases serotonin and dopamine in the brain for yourself and to the other person. And naturally, our defense mechanisms lower, our stress levels lower. This way, now you're in an even playing field of being comfortable, and smiling is just the fastest way to get someone to be comfortable. Let's say you don't like to smile. Well, maybe you just wave or nod. That's okay. But don't just stare at someone and look them in the eyes without showing some sort of expression. You want to acknowledge their presence. That's what smiling does. Now, you two have looked at each other and smiled. You've established a connection. So you've already made the first step in establishing that connection, which is great. Now, before I share with you what to do next, let's go back to building a human connection and why it's important. Building a connection is a series of moments that are linked together when you meet someone. They could be as simple as a nod, a smile, saying hello, what words you say, what you don't say, how you move your body. All of these points are moments that weave together, that are interconnected into strengthening that relationship. So they're just data points about the other person. And once you have enough data, you can start to see the patterns and relationships between all the data points, and then you get a holistic picture of the person. Now, when you understand the person more, you get to understand their wants and their needs, and this way you can actually start the relationship. So how do we actually build a connection? I'm going to define that. I actually looked up the word rapport because when I was learning in sales training how to build connections, for me, it comes naturally. I also am from New York City, where in the environment I'm forced to connect. So when you're in this type of situation and living in a big city, you have no choice but to connect. Rapport is a close and harmonious relationship in which the people understand each other's feelings and ideas, which is pretty cool. So the first step is to show genuine interest in what the person is saying. This is really tough because we all, when we go to a business networking event, we both have ideas of what we want to say. But why don't you just put that to the side and actually listen to what the person is saying? Acknowledge their interests, their ideas by nodding, smiling, repeating word for word what they said. And if you do want to respond, ask for permission. I always say, would you like me to give feedback? Can I comment on that? Because it's a way to build trust, because I'm not attacking you or I'm not trying to over talk you, but I'm actually just trying to clarify and understand what you're saying. When you don't interrupt someone, this is really good. It signals to them that you value them, which is really nice. If you repeat word for word what they're saying, they feel validated, but also they can check their communication style. So when they hear what the other person is repeating back to them, they could adjust their communication style, maybe go faster, slower, or change the order of words. What's important here is to ask open-ended questions like, how did you come up with that? I'm kind of curious to learn more. Curiosity drives the cognition. When we ask questions, the brain can think. Next, we're trying to find common ground. So you're discussing interests and activities that you have in common. You're creating relatability, and people like to do business with others just like them. We attract like attracts like. If you are a certain way, you attract more of yourself. Now, common ground could be something as simple as, especially when women get together in a networking event, they say, oh, I like your dress and look at those shoes, and maybe you start a discussion about brands, design. And I think it's important because it's just an easy way to compliment someone on their appearance and also the environment. So for example, if you're in this networking event and you're looking out the window, you're on the terrace and you see what a wonderful view. How is the conference going? It's a way to just take the attention away from two people and instead of focus on the environment, so it creates less anxiety or social anxiety about your need to communicate, your need to perform. Once you've established what you have in common, share stories. This is important. Let's say we have in common shoes. I could say, I bought these in Michael Kors. I went to Fifth Avenue. The lady can say, how long have you been living in New York? And you can kind of start talking about New York. And I grew up in New York. And then the lady's like, oh, I go to New York all the time. I went to school here. I went to NYU. And now you shared stories. All of a sudden you're sharing stories about being in college. I actually went to high school in Manhattan. My experience in high school in Manhattan and her experience going to college in Manhattan creates a shared bond and shared experiences, probably about going out and meeting people and going to events. You could kind of laugh about it and you're gaining more information about this person, especially what they're interested in, what's their lifestyle like, habits and all of that. Now, once you find commonality, show understanding. You may discuss what makes the person sad or happy. When you have commonality, let's say you've talked about your shared experience in going to school in Manhattan and you've had some negative experience and positive experiences, you could see how they react. Or let's say the woman's son is graduating and from NYU and she's go to the wedding and she's nervous about it and you're selling flowers. You can say, hey, how has your experience been selecting a florist? Ask open-ended questions like, how has your experience been selecting a florist versus, do you have a florist? Yes or no? Those are closed questions. And you're trying to understand her purchasing behavior. I mean, how much is she involved in making decisions around her son's wedding? If she's selecting vendors and you're a florist, it's good for you. So when you smile, you notice that you're happier and then everybody else around you is happier. And all of a sudden, it's not about what you're selling and more about sharing stories and being comfortable with one another. Disclaimer, in some cultures, smiling is not the way to engage in rapport. In America, we smile, we give handshakes, we ask a lot of questions. In other countries, like I lived in the Middle East, smiling was a form of flirting, so I couldn't do that in the business context, and I didn't normally shake hands right away. I did practice a lot of listening. I was more withdrawn. I was observing more. I wasn't trying to ask a lot of questions right away. The first 15 minutes of any business meeting was about asking the well-being of the family. How's your family? Would you like a coffee? Everything good? How was the traffic getting here? So it was very much relaxed as opposed to America where it's direct to the point. Like, what's your name? What do you do? It's very much direct. So understanding those subtle cultural differences is key. You don't want to rub off anybody the wrong way. So in building rapport, perhaps the most important thing here is, like I said, to show appreciation and respect, paying someone a compliment, listening to their ideas, confirming their ideas. One compliment I use frequently, which seems to work and it makes people laugh. When somebody has a great idea, I go, I love your brain. You're so cool. Instead of just saying you're pretty and you're smart, saying something unexpected or interesting, intriguing is also a good tactic. And saying something interesting leads me to icebreakers. So icebreakers are statements or questions that serve to relieve inhibitions and reduce tension between people. One of the icebreakers I say, I love this view. What do you think of it? How's your day going? What do you think about the event so far? Any interesting speeches that you've gone to? And the easiest way to deliver icebreakers are questions like I just asked. There's also statements. I might say, it's too cold in here. I wish I was in the Caribbean islands, right? And I would tell this to women who may be shivering in the cold room. I would tell men like, hey, I love your suits and I sold suits. I'm guessing you're this measurement and hopefully you're correct, because if you get the wrong measurements, you might offend someone. Always try to make the statements relatable, so you just don't make a random statement like, I want to go to Mars. So I'm not opposed to saying stuff like, I want to be in Mars right now rather than here, or what did you eat for breakfast? I use this a lot in the Middle East when there was tension in the room. I just said, hey, what you have for breakfast and or lunch? And they would say McDonald's, and you're American, and we laugh about McDonald's and whatever. Lastly, even if you've tried all these methods, you may not always connect with someone. I remember I was in London and I was talking to these two women and I was super passionate about my company and I was asking them questions about their company, and in mid-sentence they excused themselves and went to the bathroom while the other one went to get a drink. So I was left alone standing there and a woman came up to me. She made me feel super welcome and comfortable. We ended up being friends and we actually had similar people in our network. As you can see, talking to people involves multiple steps, multiple layers of uncovering the wants and the needs. There's multiple techniques and it's not always black and white. You have to have sensitivity to culture. And if you don't know what to do, the best thing is just to listen and ask questions. That's all I can help you with. In the next video, I'm actually going to touch up on soft skills when you're preparing for an interview. We will be covering some of these human connection principles and how to build rapport when you're preparing for the interview, and also during the interview. How do you go about understanding the problems, understanding the motivations, understanding if you guys actually match, not just if you're qualified for the job, but if you fit into the culture. And interviews are very difficult because they're short, like 30 minutes to an hour, sometimes 20 minutes. It's not like you're in a networking event where you have more time to really understand the other person. So I'm going to try to be as effective and as clear as possible in the next video. And again, if you liked what you've seen, please subscribe to this video. I greatly appreciate it. And I'm really thankful that you're here. And as always, do the best that you can.